Welcome to Up Level, Real Health, Real Talk with Dr. Jenna Blasi. I'm Dr. Jenna. I spent years crafting ways to help women thrive, and I want to help you do the same. On this podcast, we dive deep into health at every level, focusing on the mind, the body, and the spirit. This is where real conversations meet transformational wellness. We'll be talking about all the things that truly matter, from nutrition and fitness to lifestyle, mindset, and personal development. Plus, the real deal on managing stress and navigating menopause. So if you're ready to elevate your health journey with authentic, transformative insights, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to Up Level with Dr. Jenna. This is another episode from the heart. I felt kind of uninspired this week. So this is just from the heart because this is where I'm at, and it might be where you're at too. If you've been feeling heavy, exhausted, wondering what's the point, this is for you. When we go through periods where we don't feel as creative or we don't feel as inspired, it might be our body telling us we need a little reset, or we need a recalibration, or we need a pause. And so we're going to kind of look at that and the truth about what our body and soul are maybe asking for. So the reason I got inspired, so to speak, with my lack of inspiration to do the episode this way this week is I found myself, I'm going to be totally transparent, real talk, right? I found myself resisting recording this week's episode. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to talk about. I was like, do I want to do mindset, which you know I'm passionate about? But I tried to alternate, and I just did kind of a mind, body, soul last time. And then I thought, what health topic do you all want to hear about? I really want these episodes to be impactful and be useful and really potentially life-changing for you, right? I want everybody to be better off for having listened to them and move the needle in areas where you're stuck. And I felt uninspired, meaning I had a really long day yesterday, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to talk about on the podcast? And then I thought, maybe I just talk about this. Maybe I just talk about this, that sometimes we feel uninspired, even when we have big dreams and big goals. This is part of being human, right? And we don't always talk about these moments, but they are part of success. They're part of healing. They're part of growth. They're part of change. Maybe you're on a fitness journey and you're feeling uninspired about it, or you're trying to change your diet and you suddenly feel kind of stuck. You're sick of the same meals. You're feeling uninspired. Maybe your relationship feels like it's lost its spark. How do you reignite that? So how do we reignite that in ourselves? And how do we reignite that in any area of our life that we could apply this to? Now, I would say as an aside, if you continually feel that you have no spark in the job you're doing, you might be in the wrong job. Like, we should feel passionate about the work that we do and love doing the work that we do. Now, that doesn't mean every day we're like, oh, I'm always on and I'm okay with it. We all have our ups and downs, but this is about those moments that offer us an opportunity to look a little bit deeper. And so I think when we talk about them, we can learn how to explore them, because the fire doesn't actually go out if we're in the right place, right? We're in the right job. We're in the right relationship. The fire doesn't actually go out. It just maybe needs a little oxygen, needs a little on the kindling. So many of us expect to be on all the time. I know my job is very on. I do podcasts, I do classes, I do mentorship, and I use my voice a lot. I hold a lot of energy when I'm holding space for these sessions. And so wherever you are in your life, where are you on? Where are you off? Where are you pushing to be on? And realize that when we push, this is going to affect our nervous system. This is going to affect our hormones and can ultimately affect our creativity as well, right? And so the physical symptoms can start to tie into this if we don't catch it. For example, I'm quite good at listening to my intuition. I mean, I did a whole podcast on intuition. It's really important to me. And so I love exercising. It's not a battle. It's not a battle for me to exercise regularly. I know it is for many of you, but this is a discipline I've cultivated as one of my non-negotiables. And so when I broke my arm last May, and okay, here's a good example actually of listening to your body. I broke my arm last May, my left arm, and I'm left-handed, so that was fun. But I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to put my contacts in? How am I going to brush my teeth? And I was doing everything with my opposite hand, which is great for reprogramming your brain. So I was like, awesome, if this is going to help me have growth quicker because I'm reprogramming my brain by using my non-dominant hand, excellent. But about 2 weeks in, I was doing significantly better, and I got the okay to lift like lighter weights, 5-pound weights. And I like to lift heavy. That's how I do my fitness. And so I was all ready to do that. I was like, okay, I'm going to start working. I think it was a Sunday, and I had just gotten back from a conference, and I was like, okay, I got to go ahead. I'm going to start working out again tomorrow. And then I got sick, and I had the flu or something. And then I was like, this is really interesting. And this was in June. I broke my arm in towards the end of May. And I thought, I was just ready to start working out again. And now I'm sick. And so I thought maybe my body's trying to tell me something, because I'd been pushing pretty hard in a lot of areas, and I had launched some new programs, and there was just a lot going on with what I was doing. And so I thought, you know what? It's summertime. My kids are out of school, and I know that often in the summer, I work out in the morning typically, and my daughter is like waiting for me to be done so I can have a little bit of time with her, because I try to structure my summers a little differently, where like last summer. So anyway, I stopped exercising. I thought maybe I'm just going to recover my body a little bit. And we spent like all the mornings reading by the pool. We were going through this 6-book series together. And so I was reading out loud to her by the pool, and it was so lovely, but it was hard for me not to work out. Now, I'm not encouraging you all to take that kind of time off. I have worked out consistently for so long that it is harder for me not to do it than to do it. But I bring up this example because we've got to be willing to listen to our bodies and understand the messages. Because if I kept pushing, I think my body was trying to tell me something, because I only even mentally was planning my workout in my head, and then I got sick. So listening to the signs from our body, so we can look at when we've got nervous system overload. Hormonal shifts are happening if you're perimenopausal or menopausal, or even if you're a female having like PMS, there's a lot of hormonal shifts going on, and recovery is also important. And so on this show, I talk about goals and getting your fitness dialed in, and with our patients, getting your nutrition dialed in, getting the hormones balanced. But we don't want to have burnout. We don't want to disconnect from our why or get growth fatigue. I can remember days I'm like, I don't want to be a better version of myself, because that's something I work on every day. Like, how can I be better? How can I serve better? How can I keep improving what I do? But there's some days I feel like a petulant teenager, if you will, going, I don't want to do it. I don't want to grow anymore. And so this is not a sign of something wrong. This is our humanity. It's a sign that something is asking for our attention, and to be willing to look at what we're being asked. When I started thinking of this topic and I was trying to decide, and by the way, please email us and let me know what you'd love to hear about. Do you love the sessions where I focus on mindset and the importance of decision making? For example, I was thinking of doing a whole episode on that, or other like growth mindset things. Or do you love like, tell me about diabetes, or tell me about XYZ? Like, email us. hello@uplevelholistichealth.com and let me know, or message us on social media what you love about this podcast, what you would love to hear, because I'm here for you, truly. And so when I was trying to decide what to do this podcast on, like, I was like, what do people really want? And what do they want to hear about? And what can I still talk about? And I just was feeling really flat about it. And then that's when I realized that's what we should talk about, because many of us just feel like we need to push all the time. And so let's talk about what to do when you're in the dip, what to do when you're in the fog, when you don't have the creativity. Maybe you're a writer and you're like, I have writer's block. Get curious. That would be the first thing. Get curious. Ask, what's draining me? What's draining me? What am I focusing on that doesn't feel aligned anymore? That is a big one. So when I used to work at several different places before I went virtual with my practice. So I had my brick and mortar in Sedona. I was teaching fitness classes at 1, 2, 3 different fitness clubs. And I was out at Miamo Enchantment Resort doing consultations for their guests. So I was doing women's journey and getting a good night's sleep and life coaching and things. And it was really fun because I met people from all over the world, and it was just different from my medical practice, and I enjoyed the change, and I loved teaching fitness classes. It kind of got me out in the community, and I'm always working out. So I'm like, I might as well do it and serve and work in a group. But then there was a point where the racing, I always felt like I was racing from one thing to the next. I was racing out to Miamo, which is like a beautiful drive, but you can't race on that road. There's lots of bikers and all types of things. And then I would race back to do XYZ, and it worked until it didn't. And so I started feeling drained. I started feeling, I don't like to feel rushed. Anytime I feel uninspired or rushed in my schedule, I look and I assess, what am I doing that's not serving? If I'm not serving me, I'm not serving others. We can convince ourselves that we are. I had convinced myself, I don't want to give up my fitness classes. I've got these followings and they don't want me to stop, and they've been with me for years. But if I'm not really in it, I'm not really serving them. I'm not showing up as my best self, and I'm not willing to do things that I'm not going to give my all to. I served on the board of my son's school for years, son and daughter's school. And then I just felt like I wasn't showing up at 100%. And if I'm not going to show up as my best self, I'm not serving. So what am I focusing on that doesn't feel aligned anymore? It's a really important question to ask. And ask yourself, when did I last feel excited? And what was different then? And so when that happened to me, when I was working at all those places, I did it for years and it was really great. And then I thought, I don't want to be going from place to place. And so I think I let go of Miamo first, and I just did the fitness and then my office. And I did that for years until the fitness wasn't aligned. And that started around COVID, when all the gyms and clubs shut down, and I was working out at home and realized how much I loved having that piece of control over my schedule, that I worked out on my time and in the way I wanted. Because maybe one day, let's say I was supposed to teach spin, but maybe that day my body didn't want that kind of intense. Well, if I'm teaching, I'm just doing it regardless, right? I'm pushing through. But on my own schedule, I can decide, I'm going to do HIIT today, or no, I'd rather do more of a recovery workout. So when were you last excited, and what was different, and how can you realign? So give yourself permission to pause or simplify or pivot. And the example I just gave you had all of those. I simplified. I took things off my schedule. I rearranged things. Sometimes I gave myself permission to pause, where, like with the broken arm, where I just said, you know what? I'm just going to stop working out for a little bit. Now, honestly, I don't recommend this for most of you. Most of the people that we work with in my practice, and most of the people that come to me, they have never had a regular routine. Like getting exercise in regularly has been the battle. So justifying like, I just won't exercise for a few weeks is maybe not a good idea. I've been training for so long and teaching fitness for so long and doing so many hours a week that a pause for me is very different. So I just want to be clear. You have to determine what it is for you. It could be a work piece. Have you been overworking yourself? Do you need to scale back? Remember that our worth is not tied in with our production. We're allowed to recalibrate. And this is why when we even talk about morning routines, I'm a huge fan of morning routines. I'm thinking maybe I even do an episode on morning routine. But if you're just checking a box, if you have a gratefulness practice and a gratefulness journal and you're just checking a box just to get it done, you're not inspired anymore. And I believe we should do everything in spirit, inspired. And so we're going to talk in a moment about how do we get that inspiration when we're feeling stuck. But I would say one of the ways that I want to touch on just briefly here is reconnect with your vision, even if you're not feeling it yet. How do you really want to live? And you could go out and say, this is how I want to live by the end of the year, or this is how I want to live in 3 to 5 years, or just start with your perfect day. What does my perfect day look like? And that can get you re-inspired, because some people are so kind of stuck in the muck of where they are. They can't see a brighter future. But if you take it down to like, what would I like my ideal day to look? You might start to discover some things about what really works for you and what does inspire you. Because once we know what we want, we can make a decision, we can make a commitment to go after it, and then we have to discipline ourselves. Discipline is the greatest form of self-love. I say this over and over again for all my free spirits out there. I get it. Discipline can feel like it's constraining, but it's actually not. It's the greatest form of self-love because it is only through discipline that we get freedom. If you want freedom to be fit in your body, you have to discipline yourself to be flexible, to move your body, to stretch, to be strong. That leads to the freedom. If you want financial freedom, whatever that means, which is kind of it's a little bit of a misnomer because freedom really comes from within us. But if you want to have enough money that you're not worried paycheck to paycheck, for example, you have to discipline yourself to create that. But the discipline will lead to the freedom. And sometimes rest is the discipline. That's why I stress intuition, because if you're not justifying, that can come, the justification, oh, I don't need to work out today, or, oh, this cake looks really good. It's not that big a deal if I have the piece of cake, or whatever those justifications are. Oh, I should stay in this job because it's paying the bills and I can't see myself doing anything else, or I could never go back to school at this point in my life, or whatever you're talking yourself out of that it actually would be good for you, or talking yourself into that's actually not good for you. If you get in touch with that's your saboteur, right? That's your paradigm. That's your saboteur. That's your ego versus your intuition will always guide you towards the expanded version of yourself. Your intuition will always guide you towards what's in your highest good, which is why if rest is the discipline, your intuition will know that. You'll know when it's just you're negotiating. Like, let's say you said, oh, I'm going to exercise Wednesday morning, and you wake up Wednesday morning and it's cold and it's dark and you start kind of renegotiating. You hit that snooze. That's not intuition, right? That's just letting, the instant gratification win over your higher goals, versus if your intuition says, maybe I'm supposed to rest. If you're trying to get something done and you feel creatively blocked, or you feel stuck, or you feel just not in a good space, get up and go take a walk. Like, take that pause. Sometimes that is the discipline. So when we're looking at inspiration, remember, your spark's not gone. Maybe for some of you, and let's help you find it. If it is, one of my favorite things is helping women in midlife find their joy again, because they've been putting, for most of the women that we see that come in midlife, whether they're 40s or 50s or even 60s or older, they've been putting everybody else before them, or waiting until retirement. We keep waiting and putting off. But what if we only had until tomorrow? How would you live your life? And so inspiration, it can and often comes after action, not before. You got to just do the thing. Just do it. Do it. You know, my mentors always say, do it before you're ready. Do the thing. And then you might start to get inspired like this. Like, I'm actually pretty inspired to be on here talking about this, but I really didn't know what I wanted to talk about. And then I was like, okay, well, let's talk about not knowing what you want to talk about. And I actually feel pretty inspired doing it. So it comes after the action often. So just do the thing. And for me, we're all going to have something different that works for reigniting ourselves. So if I'm in a funk or I feel stuck, I know I need to step away. Like, if I've been in my office all day and I suddenly notice like my productivity has been going down, and maybe I've been in front of the screen all day, it's like, okay, I need to go out in nature. Or music for me is a huge one. Like, a song can change everything. And sometimes that song will be frequency music, attracting positivity and high frequency music I like to listen to. And other times it's just like something I can sing along and dance to, and something that just like really motivates me. And follow your gut. A few weeks ago, I was listening to a song that just filled me. Like, I felt so empowered, and I was dancing and I felt so good. And then I just thought, I feel like I need to share this with someone. It's a really empowering song. And I texted it to a friend and I said, use this as a pick me up. And she messaged me. She's like, how did you know I needed a pick me up? And I'm like, I had no idea that you needed a pick me up, but I thought, who can I share this with? And you came to mind. And so friendship, connection can also be like, that felt good. Like, I reignited myself with that song, and then I shared that with someone else and shared a connection. So laughing with a friend, lunch with a friend, laughing on your own. I mean, sometimes I will just watch silly videos I'm so in need of like maybe a stress relief that I'm like laughing hysterically, and it's probably not that funny. I remember at the end of finals in one of my years in naturopathic school, and we used to have like 13 finals in a week. And I remember watching an episode of Friends. Pretty sure it was an episode of Friends I had already seen several times. And I was crying, laughing so hard. I was hysterical and I was crying, and my husband came in, and I just thought, it occurred to me because I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I needed a stress release. I guess I needed some type of emotional relief, and it felt so good. So movement, journaling, laughing. We just did this. I don't remember if it was a challenge for our members. I think it might've been a challenge for our members, or it might've been a social media challenge you may have seen, but we did a challenge, and a share of like, each one of us in the team shared how we manage stress and how we reset when we feel kind of funky. So music is a big one for me. I think connection and friendship can be a really big one. Just get on the phone with somebody who inspires you, who lifts you up, but really know what your go-tos are to reignite yourself. And often it's stepping away. So I did not record this podcast at the time I meant to, the time I'd scheduled it, because I was not inspired. And I made excuses. I made excuses. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this other thing. Because I didn't want to do it when I wasn't inspired. And then I had moved it to another time slot, and I didn't do it then. Something else took over. And one of the things that happened that I could say why this happened for me this week, when I said back to the beginning, what's draining you? Why did you maybe lose the inspiration? For me, we've had a lot of planning going on. Like, we've been trying to figure out our summer plans, and we're coordinating with another family, and which flights are we going to be on, and where are we going to stay? And I don't love those details. We actually hired somebody else, like a travel agent, to do it for us, which was great. But even then I was resisting like the emails she was sending going, how is this? I didn't even want to read them. I was just like overwhelmed. I was like, I don't know. I had, decision fatigue. And so because there happened to be like a perfect storm of all of these different things that I had to plan and decisions, I think that's what happened with work, and the podcast kind of got thrown into that mix. And I was like, I had nothing left. So remember, not nothing left, but it was lower. Remember, we have certain reserves. We have physical reserves, we have mental reserves, and we have emotional reserves. And so I was just talking to one of our VIP members about this. She was saying that she's been craving and foods and wanting to eat and eating a lot when she normally wouldn't, and snacking and whatnot. And we talked about, well, for her, it was distraction. She was using it as a distraction from something. But sometimes our reserves are spent. When I have gone really hardcore into like new programs, because I'm always studying and I'm always designing and working on things, times when I've done that with a really steep learning curve, my physical reserves have gone down. I find I'm unable to exercise as intensely. Right? Or if you've got something really emotionally trying going on with your family, you may not have the mental reserve, right? For the creativity part. That was kind of, I think, what was happening with me with the planning. It was just, it felt very like emotionally taxing on me to like have to decide and make all these plans for the family. And it wasn't just one trip. It was this other trip plus a business trip, and like all of these things coming together, plus whatever my work demands and my family demands going on. And so my emotional reserves were lower, and that affected my mental reserves. So just understand these things and give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace and remember that there's cycles of energy, there's cycles of creativity, and there's cycles of healing. And these are natural, just like hitting a plateau in a weight loss journey. That's actually not a bad sign. It's an opportunity to switch things up. It's an opportunity to change the status quo. And these creativity slumps are opportunities as well. They're opportunities to tune in, to see what the message is, to recalibrate, to reset, and to honor yourself instead of constantly pushing and forcing and pushing and forcing, giving ourselves some grace, and then doing the things that we can do to reset where we're at. So I'm going to give you 3 kind of grounded actions, if you will, that you can do today. And it's funny, there's been a lot of, on Instagram and social media lately, I've seen a lot of posts where people say, I don't know who needs to hear this, but, And for whatever reason, I'm kind of over that. Like I'm over people getting together and going, I don't need to hear this. I don't know who needs to hear this, but, and I don't know why. I mean, I think it's a great thing. Like so that's inspiration, right? That's someone saying, hey, I'm inspired to share a message. Not sure who needs to hear it, but, and, that is what today is. I'm not sure who needs to hear this, but I hope it's you. And if it is, share it with someone else who might need it, like I did with my my song that I shared with my friend. So I'm going to give you 3 grounded actions. Number 1, give yourself permission to feel what you feel without judgment. Just assess it neutrally so you can really look at and let go of. I'm going to guess there's something that you need to let go of in your life when you feel this way, but give yourself permission to feel what you feel without judgment, which reminds me of something my daughter, she's 8, was doing with me recently. She says, Mom, let's play a game. It's called Listen and Don't Judge. And she'd say it before everything she said. So she's like, okay, Mom, listen and don't judge. And then she would tell me like a lie that she had made or that, she snuck chocolate or whatever it was. And it was really interesting. I'm like, oh, I'm hearing all the dirt now. And then she'd go on to the next one. She'd have me go, but like, I don't hide much. So I'm like, okay, listen and don't judge, and try to come up with something. But she had plenty. And so, but that creates a safe space. That exercise for her was a safe space for her to tell me all of the kind of questionable things that she had done. But I always want her to be able to do that. Right. To be able to share. I'd much rather my kids are honest with me and not worry about, quote unquote, getting in trouble than not being honest. But anyway, it was just kind of cute. Listen and don't judge. We listen. She would say, we listen and we don't judge. And then she would tell me something kind of absurd. So give yourself permission, feel what you feel, but don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Because remember too, when we feel stuck, when we feel uninspired, can we trust in the higher guidance? Can we trust that everything is happening for us and not to us? Everything is happening for us and not to us, which means even in our stuckness, we are exactly where we're supposed to be. And if we listen and we honor, then we can shift it too. And just everything in due time. So number 2, do one small thing that reconnects you to joy or peace. One small thing that reconnects you to joy or peace. This actually gave me a lot of joy today. So I'm going to have a big thank you here at the end for listening. And then number 3, remind yourself, this is a season. It's not a sentence. We often associate how we're feeling as being a life sentence or a plateau as being a life sentence, or I'm stuck. One, I encourage you to stop saying we're stuck. Remember, the universe is listening. Like I encourage you, don't say, I'm in debt. Like the universe is like, what? You want more debt? What? You want more stuckness? So, we could say, I have an opportunity to shift. But remind yourself, it's a season. And like I said, it will shift and it's here for a reason. It is here for a reason. We might need to change something up in our routine. We might need to change something up. If it's a fitness thing, you might need to change something up in your routine or work with a professional. That's why I love my workouts, but I recently joined a whole new fitness challenge program with other experts. 1, because I wanted to increase my education in an area, but 2, I got re-inspired. I'm mixing up my workouts in a different way. So is there something that you can mix up or in your diet, in your fitness? Relationship. I actually didn't go into that, but let me just address quickly. Like if you feel like you've lost the spark in your relationship, do you need to set a date night? Where are you not giving attention? It's an opportunity for us to give attention somewhere. And so whether it's mixing up and giving attention to our fitness or our joy or our relationship or whatever it is, the spark is not gone. It's just under the surface waiting for that light. And so again, I'm not speaking to relationships that you're meant to leave. Okay. If it's not a healthy relationship, that's a different issue. But if you care about the relationship, it could be a friendship, could be a romantic relationship. It might just need some attention, right? A little light, a little spark, and everything is in passing. So thank you all so much for joining me. I really enjoyed this and I hope you did too. And I'm just so grateful for you being here with me, even when I'm in my valley and not my peak. And so I so look forward to next time, and please reach out and let me know, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to hear about? What would you like me to address? What questions do you still have? And let's up level together. Community makes the difference. So thank you for being here with me. And there's community in this. So let's share, let's up level together, and let's thrive and make this world a better place. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Up Level, Real Health, Real Talk. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step in your health journey, one that nourishes not just your body, but your mind and spirit as well. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's episode, please leave a review. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep thriving. And remember, true wellness is a journey, and you are on the right path.